Hello all and welcome back with the part three of the webinar series. I'm glad we are meeting again because USMLE and residency is such a topic that we have to tackle and deal with it in depth through the various angles. So since today's topic is step by step residency application process, we're definitely going to have a detailed discussion on how the entire application has to be, especially if you're seniors who are watching this right now. I'm sure you would know what is the application system in your own country if you're from India or any other Asian country, that if you're attending this session. Over a period of time, you will then understand and realize how different is it in terms of the process than the US system. As far as the overview is concerned, yes, so in the previous sessions also we have seen as to what should be your approach towards residency application, what are the other things in terms of CV building and other aspects of the application we have seen. And then of course in the next session also we're going to have a look at some statistics, we're going to have a look at some USMLE pattern, etc. So all of these put together. But again, coming back, we are going to stick to how to apply, what to apply, when to apply, and what are the do's and don'ts. That is what we're going to cover in today's session.
Thank you, sir. That was a great overview, and I think it gives us a good general idea about today's discussion. Now I'd like to ask you some specific questions on behalf of everyone who has submitted their queries. So the first question is, I'm a final year student, and I really want to pursue my PG in the US. I intend to use my internship to study and prepare for the exams. Can you give a brief timeline of the USMLE application process, assuming that we are writing step 1 and step 2 after internship?
Okay, so yeah, I'm sure this a set of interns must be worried about how should they start, knowing the fact that they're already into the last year and now they don't know how to go ahead with this. So I have I would like to share my screen. Can you just give me the right so I can just share my screen?
Yes, 1 second.
You can share it now.
Sure. So is that visible on your screen?
Yes.
Great. So your first question was regarding the the intern students as to if this is the right time and what should be the timelines they want to take about a year or two more after the internship, how should be the approach. Now that especially when it comes to interns, it's already late for them to start, but at this stage, even if they're interested and they're serious about knowing as to how do we go about things, I would just like to describe a timeline, a generic timeline, which helps. Now, this would be applicable for the interns as well as the juniors as well, from first years or second years or third years for that matter. So right now, all the students would be in the medical school at different levels or different years of their MBBS pattern. When they start preparing for the USMLEs, especially for the step 1, please remember you need to keep aside at least about 9 to 12 months only for your step 1. So if you are an intern student, especially at this year, let's be more lenient and let's say we need about 12 months for the preparation of step 1. Step 2 CK shouldn't take that long, and about 4 to 6 months should be good for your step 2 CK. Now, step 2 CK, since it has the final year subjects, you'll be able to deal with it better because you've just dealt with it recently last year. So then that becomes easier, which is why it takes less time plus less number of subjects when you compare that with the step 1. And the last exam that you need to give mandatorily before you actually become eligible to apply is the step 2 CS exam, which takes not more than 1 to 2 months. So if you add all the three together with a couple of months of the US clinical experience, I guess about 18 months, like bare minimum 18 months to a maximum of 24 months. That's the average timeline which is required. Now, if you're talking about an intern, if the interns start, it's ideally good to start parallelly along with your internship rather than waiting for one full year, because then that will cost you additional 1 year of loss, which is not good. So start parallelly, and about 2 years maximum, even if we are lenient enough to count about 2 years from then. So 1 year of internship and then the year thereafter. So in these 2 years, you'll be done thoroughly with your step 1 CK and CS, and then immediately you can send across your applications for residency. Now there's another process involved here, which is the ECFMG registration. That is what you need to do after the end of the step 1 CK and the CS examination. Now, there's one optional exam which is called as a step 3 exam. When I'm saying optional, I do not mean to say there's an option whether to take it or not, but the option is whether to take it now or take it later, parallelly along with your residency in the US. It's just that if you take the step 3 first, if you have time in hand, and if you take the step 3 first, you have a better chance of absorption in the US. Parallelly, there are a lot many programs who can offer you, their programs on a H-1B work permit visa. So then life becomes much easier after the end of the residency if you have a H-1 with you. So this is a generic timeline. Now, even if you're a like second year student also, this would be good for you to correlate, because step 1 takes about 9 to 12 months. So by the end of second year or latest mid of third year, you're done with your step 1. CK, any which ways, the subjects are final subjects. So I would still recommend push your CK plans and the CS plans during your internship, right? So sooner you start, you have enough time. That is the best idea over here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that timeline. We'll be sharing this PowerPoint with everyone after the session, so you guys can take another look at it. So moving on to the next question. With the transfer of power from the MCI to the NMC, what are the future challenges that we can expect?
Well, as far as the powers are concerned, MCI is really not anywhere there hindering the students' plan of going to the US. So MCI is not really an obstacle as such. So when it's going to get transferred to the NMC, I really don't see any kind of hindrance. I am still in the process of verification whether students will have to give the next exam after they come back to India. Most probably yes, but we are yet waiting for a confirmed official statement from them. So
Right.
I don't really see any kind of an obstacle, no matter it's the MCI or anyone else.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So our next question is there anything you can do if your college is not ECFMG certified?
Well, again, there's nothing that a student can do about it, right?
Right.
It's the college or the dean who has to take the active participation in going ahead and following up with the relevant authority and get themselves registered with the World Director of Medical Schools, ensuring that they've got the sponsor notes under the sponsor notes tab onto the World Director of Medical Schools site, right? And again, there are certain limitations that even the dean would face, like for example, the minimum criteria to get yourself into the World Directory is you have to have at least one batch which is passed out. So unless and until that is done, even the dean won't be able to help you. So waiting is the only solution here.
Right. So ECFMG certification relies largely on the college and the dean rather than the student themselves.
That's right. Now, if you're talking about the ECFMG certification, now there are two things. One is your college certified? And the other is ECFMG certification. So there's a very thin line difference being ECFMG certified and the college being certified by the ECFMG. So what I just replied you was the college being sponsored by the ECFMG. That is what we were talking about.
Yes, sir. Okay, moving on to our next question. What is the process of applying for an observership, and when should we start applying for observerships?
Well, to answer this question, every time I have a session, one thought which just comes to my mind is like, in India, we have a national fruit, a national anthem, we have national, tree, we have got national animal. Now I feel, this should be the national question, because every time we have a session, irrespective of the topic, this question crops up. and I was very sure this
Yes.
would crop up, which is why I was ready with it. Now, for those who have not attended my previous sessions, I would like to repeat the slide which I had the last time. What are the kind of ships, or which ship do I actually climb? Because I can see a lot of ships in the market. So one ship is the clerkship that I've heard of, the other ship is the observership that I've heard of, the internship, and of course the externships, right? Trust me, these are
Right.
all the jargons, and in turn these things actually end up confusing a student. Now I remember now, and what you've done here is you've specifically used or mentioned the word observership. Now, observership itself means you can observe and you cannot touch the patient, right? In first place, this question shouldn't have come, because why should a student ideally apply for or even opt for an observership when he knows that he cannot touch the patient? There's not going to be any value addition. Why do we even need that, right? So
Right, right.
the best way for any student and every student to know is the primary categorization of this particular concept should be, in two parts. One is the hands-on and other is the non-hands-on. The observership is the non-hands-on, where you do not touch the patient. But what we should be aiming at, which is going to add value to your profile, is the hands-on. Because I went to the US, I spent about 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, and I touched the patient, and I performed on the patient, right? And now after doing this, we then know that, okay, fine. In the hands-on category, there are further two bifurcations. One is the electives and other is the clerkship. Now, both these options would offer you hands-on clinical experience. It's just that before you apply, right, as a student, it is called as the electives, which is normally entertained, or you get an admission in the university hospitals. Whereas after the graduation, you can also do the same thing, which is called as a clerkship program, which possibly teaching hospitals or private hospitals or community hospitals may also end up offering you. So if you're of an opinion that after you graduate, you're not allowed to do hands-on, clerkship is the option for you. But again, I don't want to give a full score to clerkship, because yes, there are a lot of limitations. The total number of seats available for clerkship are less as compared to electives, which is why every single student should try and opt for electives only. Secondly, when it comes to electives, about 6 to 9 months before the intended start date is a good time for you to start a application to the respective terminals or the hospitals or the university hospitals as per your choice. So this is how you are supposed to plan. And if, since it's 6 to 9 months before the intended date, now I told you some time back that during your internship time, CK and CS are the best exams that you can deal with. Now for CSK, eventually if you're planning to go down to the US, then apply for the same electives about 6 to 9 months in advance, which is like about your final year. So parallelly, that is one of the things that you will have to start focusing on when it comes to electives or hands-on clinical experience.
Right, right. Okay, thank you, sir. So related to this, someone has asked us, when should we go for observerships or clerkships if we're not allowed to do electives during our MBBS?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Someone has asked, when should we go for our clerkships if we were unable to do electives during our MBBS?
Well, again, so as we just discussed, I guess this is a repetition of the same question. So if you can do that, then maybe you can go ahead and, 1 second. Hello?
Yes?
Yeah, one moment.
No problem.
Yeah, so I was at this point, sorry. Yeah, so if you are going to the US during your internship time, then that's the best thing. If for some reason you're not able to finish it before you graduate or while you're in the internship year, you can always go after you are done with your your graduation, and you can opt for clerkship. But again, let that not be an option. because you may lose out on the valuable time by doing the electives earlier. So try for electives is what I would say here.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is once again a little related. How many letters of recommendation do we need?
Well, regarding this, again, it's not a standard thing that, a university would reject you because you don't have, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the prescribed number of the letters of recommendation. But on an average, what you can see on the screen is good. You also get the letters of recommendation from the local, the college that you're studying in your country, which is one letter of recommendation from the dean. Maybe one or two from the HODs is also good. So that shows or that reflects, how have you been in your academics in the last 5.5 years. So which is why the domestic letters of recommendation would help. And any which ways through the US legal experience, you can always solicit at least 2 to 3 letters of recommendation by doing the electives or the clerkship program. So this is how you should be balancing your application.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So the next question is, can we get letters of recommendation from patients or students that we have worked with?
Well, again, patients will not be evaluating you because patients are patients. They would not know much about, the protocols that you're following. Are you doing the right thing or not? And if you're taking it from your fellow friends or students or doctors, they could be biased as well. So they are definitely not accepted. What is accepted is definitely from the hospital. If you're going to the US and working there, the hospital administration will give you a letter of recommendation under which physician that you were working with. Okay, so that letter of recommendation is definitely very important and valuable, and it will hold value. And if you're getting it from your domestic college, then as it's mentioned on the screen, your dean and HOD would be the best people for you to get your letters of recommendation, not the patients.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So the next question is, will these letters of recommendation also help build our CV?
Absolutely. So as we've mentioned in the previous thing, it will certainly add value to your CV or your profile. So that's the benefit of doing US clinical experience, because I'm sure all of you are aware that US clinical experience is a paid program. Okay, it's not a free thing. It's a paid program. So because it is paid, you're paying for it. Obviously, it adds value, which is why you're paying for it. Otherwise, why would someone pay for it?
Right. Okay. So our next question is, when and where do we have to register for USMLE Step 1 and 2? Can we choose the dates? Once we've chosen the dates, can we change them? And lastly, if we cancel, will it reflect poorly on us?
Okay. As far as the application is concerned for your USMLE examination, right? So ECFMG examination date booking, this is the website that you need to go visit, register yourself and fill in your application, and get done with your step 1, step 2 CK and step 2 CS application filling on this website. So this is the place. Your second connecting question was, how do I book the dates, right? So ECFMG is just going to help you with a scheduling permit where they will authorize you to appear for the exam. The actual exam booking date happens on this website, which is the prometric.com/USMLE. So it's a separate Prometric center which hosts the USMLE examination. You have to go to this particular center and appear for the exam, but you will have to book your slot. So the slot booking will happen on the Prometric center. On this website, right? Can you change the dates was your next question. Yes, you can change the dates within the 3 months of eligibility period without having an adverse effect on your profile. Okay, so for some reason, if you feel not prepared, then it's pointless to just go and appear and either fail and have that stain or scar on your CV. Might as well you can just give them a call and cancel your appointment. That's absolutely fine. However, if you've booked your exam date, let's say tomorrow morning is your exam slot, you know that, and intentionally you do not show up to the exam hall or the Prometric center, then yes, it will certainly have an adverse effect, because then you're eating up the space of the needy. Because there are people who are in the wait list. What
That
you've
makes
done
sense.
is you've not appeared, neither have you allowed someone else to appear on your behalf. I mean, on your behalf, as in vacated that seat for him or her. So that will certainly have an adverse effect. So do not do that. At least give them a call, send them an email, and cancel your appointment if you think you're not going to appear for the exam. I guess you had one more connecting question. Where all are the centers? How do I know which is my closest center? Was that the question?
Yes, sir.
Right. So in India, these are the 8 locations where you can appear for the USMLE examination: Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Allahabad, and Kolkata and New Delhi. So these are the 8 locations. You can book your exam dates in one of these locations depending on the proximity and the distance, and of course the available date of your choice.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right.
So I'll move on to our next question.
Yeah, before you
sorry,
just
sir.
move on, no problem. Before you move on to the next question, for all the viewers, I have one thing to tell you. Just about less than a month ago, I have conducted or hosted an online webinar on the ECFMG step-by-step registration process, where I have taken the students through each and every tab, page, every single click, what happens on the next page when you go, which information, where should you fill in, etc. I would urge all the viewers here to please take a screenshot of this, visit this link and go through the webinar. I'm sure it will give you a lot of insights and a better clarity of how do you apply for the ECFMG. Right? So please take a screenshot of this or make a note of it somewhere, maybe in your free time today, tomorrow, day after, whenever. You can just go through this particular link and watch through my online video of how do you register yourself for the ECFMGs. Go on in.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing this webinar. We'll send the PowerPoint among everyone so they can also directly access the link.
Thank you.
So, okay, next question is how and when do you need to get an ECFMG certification?
Well, again, a part of it we've already discussed. I would like to just simply repeat that just because I guess you got a different question. So this is the timeline that we had discussed at the beginning of this session, where after the end of USMLE Step 1, after the end of USMLE Step 2 CK, and the USMLE Step 2 CS, after these 3 examinations are done and subject to you have cleared these examinations successfully, then again you visit the ecfmg.org website, and there would be one tab saying OSS, under which you can go and apply for ECFMG certification. ECFMG certification is nothing but it just says that, okay, fine, Dr. ABC has cleared all the requirements of being eligible for applying for the US residency. So what ECFMG does is, it will verify that, okay, fine, what are the requirements? 1 CKCS, you've done that, okay, fine, now you're eligible, move on to the next level. So that is the role that ECFMG plays, for which you need a gate pass. The gate pass is nothing but an ECFMG certification. So you do that after the requirements are done, which is end of Step 1, Step 2 CK, and Step 2 CS. Step 3 does not come under the ECFMG. There's a separate body called as the FSMB, or the Federal State of Medical Board. So Step 3 plays no role in getting yourself ECFMG certified.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right.
So I think that answers our question. You have to get your certification after you write the Step 1, Step 2 CK and CS, and then you can apply for ECFMG certification.
That's right.
Okay, so the next question is, what all documents must you have to apply for a residency? And do I need to apply for a US visa while I apply for a residency?
Well, so this is the list of documents which will be required for your application. Now, when you're sending your application, you send through an electronic portal called as the ERAS, also widely known as the Electronic Residency Application Service. So through this portal, you're supposed to upload your documents, and these are the main documents which you need to upload on your ERAS application, which is first is the Medical Student Performance Evaluation, that is the MSPE. Previously, this document was widely called as the Dean's Letter. Now the terminology has changed. the MSP is nothing but still is the dean's letter only. It's just that the terminology has changed. So dean has to write good about you, that okay, fine, he and she is my student academically, how brilliant you are, outstanding you are. So they write good things about you, and so it's a cousin brother of letters of recommendation, I would say. So it's like a dean's letter where they are recommending you. Next is the medical school transcript. So all your 5 years, 4 years, or 4.5 years of your medical education that you've had, at the end of the year, you end up getting mark sheets, right? These are the score. These are the subjects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are the scores A, B, C, D, E. End of the story. But medical school transcript is nothing but like a more deeper version of your mark sheets, which talks about a little bit more as to how many hours have you, you've spent in that particular subject. What was your score like? Did you get any credits? What were the credits, etc. So that is the version of an advanced version of your mark sheets is what I would say. That's the medical school transcript. Letters of recommendation, we've already discussed this. Letters of recommendation from the dean, HOD, and of course from the US hospitals. Photograph, no need to say. ECFMG status report and the USMLE transcript. Now USMLE transcript is nothing but the mark sheets of step 1, step 2 CK, and step 2 CS. You simply upload those. So that is the USMLE transcript, and the second one is the medical school transcript, right? Now ECFMG status report, again, this may sound as a jargon to you, but it's no big deal. ECFMG status report contains the following information. What is your ECFMG ID? So the ID that you log in with as the ID. Applicant name is your name, your birth date. Are you ECFMG certified? Yes or no? Certificate issuance date of the ECFMG certification. So those are like very petty things. Exams passed for the ECFMG certification. That is a 1 CKCS. CSA valid through score. So that is the clinical skills assessment valid. So that is valid until what date? If it is applicable, you can mention it over there. Medical school year of graduation. Which year did you graduate? Was that 2019 or was that 2009 or was that 1999? Whatever it is. Degree year, again, is the same thing. I mean, because in a few countries, degree year is separate and graduation year is separate. So again, if that is applicable, medical education credential status and explanatory notes if applicable. So there's no, and a big deal about it, but it's a very, very basic pieces of information that you need to punch in over here, and that becomes your ECFMG status report.
Right.
So these documents.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So thank you, sir, for answering that question.
Right.
So yes. So moving on to the next question: how do you choose the right university for your residency?
Now, this is a very interesting question, and many students, they don't really focus on this point. All right. First thing first, there are two aspects to look into this question. One is the geographical aspect. So let's have a look at that. Now, in front of you, as you can see, this is the geographical map of the USA, right? Now, you will see in the map, there are some red dots, which are, highly cluttered, and a few of them are like scarcely cluttered. Now, on the east coast of US, if you see, you will find this is densely populated. Now, each red dot represents 5 IMGs in the US, in that particular area, in that particular hospital, all right? Now, if you see, East Coast is completely densely populated with the international medical graduates. And when I'm saying international medical graduates, the Asian students really contribute a lot. And especially if I have to further bifurcate, Indians are at #1 position when it comes to, being in the US, especially in the tri-state area, which is the New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York area, right? And of course, there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of hospitals, a lot of, universities. So there are a lot of opportunities, which is why it is densely populated out there. The second next best, I would say, is the Chicago, Ohio, Columbus area. So this is the next area where you will find highly densely populated international medical graduates, right? Now you might say, or you might think that, okay, fine, there are other areas as well which are densely populated. What about those? Can we not apply? Of course, yes. However, if you see the next densely populated area is Miami, Florida area. and parallelly the West Coast, which is California or San Diego, etc. Right?
Right.
Now, if at all you think that you have a level 3 Spanish on your CV, right? Then I guess the California area and Florida area will welcome you. But if you have a language barrier, I would personally recommend do not waste your application in these areas because it's densely populated. I'm not saying you would not get, but I would say there are the chances are less when you compare that with the East Coast area.
Right, that makes sense.
But do not be over smart in saying, okay, fine, why am I, really running behind these and, inviting competition? Might as well I look out for these areas where there's no one. But trust me, you'll be the only one if you try and, apply in these areas. There are no IMGs, there are not many opportunities, so don't waste your application in these areas, right? So, right, so the New York and the Ohio area, that's the best is what I would suggest and recommend. So that's the first aspect, which is a geographical aspect. The second thing is, now that we've known, okay, fine, I want to look into X area, could be East Coast, West Coast, North, South, whatever, that's your choice. How do I shortlist the university? How do I know which university is offering me what program? What are the Ivy League colleges? How do I apply into those, etc.? Now, best way to figure that out is, again, I would request all to please note this short link, which will take you to the website, right? This short link, take a screenshot, make a note of it, whatever it takes, but this is very, very, very important link that I can share you with, which will help you. Rather, I would want to take you through the actual website as how do you look. So when you go to the short link, this is where you land up, right? Click on search programs. So this search bar would open up. Now let's say I want to search for universities in my area of specialty, which is, let's say, internal medicine. So I type in internal medicine. The first choice is internal.
Sir, your PowerPoint is still on the screen, not the link that you clicked.
Is it? So I guess, do I have
yes,
to?
Sir. Maybe if you minimize your PowerPoint, then it'll show up.
Okay. Is it visible now?
No, sir.
No?
No.
It says your sharing is paused.
Can you try resharing the screen? Stop sharing and reshare.
Okay, 1 second. I'll just do a new share.
Okay.
Now,
okay, now it's visible. Yes.
Okay. So this is the website that you would be landing onto. And then just click on search programs, and then the search bar would just pop up. Now, as I was giving you an example of internal medicine, so that's the area of specialty that I would want to apply to. So if I just simply click on internal medicine and say search, right. Now I have 556 results across the US, which will fetch me results only for internal medicine. Likewise, on your left of the screen, if you see, there are so many filters and options that you can use. You want to apply for residency or you want to apply for fellowship. And if at all it's residency or fellowship, whatever, what are the relevant specialties which are available? You can just go through this. I'm sure it will give you a vast, overview of the entire, availability of the seats. And if you want to know location wise that I want to get into, South Atlantic or Mid Atlantic, which is the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area, I can simply, further put some more filters and understand. Right. So I'll just take a hypothetical example. Let's say I want to get into Atlantic Care Regional Medical Center program, right? It's in New Jersey. So if I just simply click on this, it will give me a detailed overview of the entire program, history, geography, everything. Who's the program director? What's the address, telephone number, fax number, email ID, address, everything. and some basic information about that particular institute. Program best described as community hospital, primary teaching site, accredited length of training is 3 years, required length is 3 years. Will they be accepting applications for training that begins 21-22? Yes. Program start dates June, July. Participants in the ERAS? Yes. Web address? Everything is given over here with Google Maps and all possible things. Then you will, if you just change the tab, you will also see program size, program details, everything is given over here. Step 1 required, yes. Minimum score required 220. Step 2 required, no. Minimum score, obviously it's not. So those kind of things. But again, this is a community hospital, so this is not a really recommended hospital, I would say. But otherwise, you might say, I don't need a step to CK, so I'll just simply go for an Atlantic, and we've not even heard about this. But that's just an example. Educational and work in environments, part-time, yes, no. There's so many questions. I don't want to go through all the questions, but I have given you the link. I would want you to do a homework for yourself so you at least understand. Oh, this is very interesting. I might as well stop here. Salary compensation, it's about $55,000 for the first year, $57,000 for the second year, and $59,000 for the third year, with vacation of 28 days. And it also gives me some sick leaves and other things. So all of this is given over here. This is just one hospital that I have opened. There are 556 results only for internal medicine. So you can just imagine how exhaustive and informative this website can be, right? So before you students ask randomly to someone, how should I apply? Where should I apply? This is it. Do a lot of research first. Shortlist a few set of universities. Understand what are the requirements, and then maybe you can start working on those. Then it becomes easier for you. So yeah.
Right. Thank you, sir, for sharing this great resource with us. I'm sure a lot of people will find it very useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our next question is, when is the last date to apply for a residency? Are there different phases of counseling as is done in India? And if I don't get selected in the first phase, should I wait and see if there's something like that?
And can I just ask you to repeat this question, please?
Yes, sir. The question is, when is the last date to apply for a residency? Are there different phases of the counseling process as is done in India? And if there are phases, if I don't get selected in the first phase, should I wait and see if there's something like that?
Okay. So first of all, what is the last date? Now, usually if you see the timelines, if I would like to share with you, so this is it. 1st September to 15th September is actually when you submit your applications. June is when, so let's start it this way. So June is when you obtain tokens from ERAS, right? So you obtain the tokens. Tokens is nothing that, okay, when I'm going to be in the queue and I'm going to be an applicant this year. So only those people who have tokens can apply for the residency for that particular year. Number 2.
Sir, so one question, will you have to finish your step 1 and step 2 at that time when you're applying for residency token?
Yes. Well, at the time of token, it's not really mandatory. However, before you send across your applications, you need to have your scores, because there's a likely possibility that in the month of June, you have appeared for your one of the steps and you're awaiting results.
Right.
So that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. But you've sent across your applications and still you haven't received your results, then that could be a dark area for you.
Okay, I see.
Right. So in the month of June, it's not a hard and fast that you should have, even if you, but at least, you cannot expect from a June to a September that, you start giving examinations and the next 2 months, you'll have all the 3 scores. That's not going to be possible. So at least any 2 examinations should have been taken earlier. And maybe you're in the midst of taking the exam or awaiting results. That should be the situation that a student should be in the month of June, in the same year when he or she is trying to apply, right? July is when the My ERAS would open up. So, and July and August is when you start uploading the documents which we have discussed a couple of minutes back, your MSPEs and transcripts and photographs and other things, LORs, SOPs, etc. So these 2 months you can take your time to gather the documents and upload them parallelly, because now My ERAS has opened up for you. 1st September to 15th September is the time when you can shoot your applications through the ERAS. You log into the My ERAS website, and then at one click, while you're uploading your documents, you're also expected to upload the list of universities or hospitals that you intend to apply to. Okay, so let's say I'm going to apply to 100 places. So 100 places I have already shortlisted. I've got buckets, and I've just showed you, right? I'm selecting internal medicine and I've got the list. So I will just select which all 100 I want to against the specialty, and I will upload everything. And between 1st September to 15th September, at one click, the application is shot to 100 places in one click.
Okay, I see.
After that, then, October to Jan is the interview season, and Feb and March is when the actual match happens, and then July is when the residency begins.
Right. Okay, so the next question is, how do you...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
in case, I just realized, in case in the current session, if there are audience who are planning to apply this year and they are not sure about how do I apply and what are the extended timelines because of the COVID pandemic, there's a good news that unlike the ERAS applications are accepted only till the 15th of September, but for this year, they have given an extended date, which is right until the 21st of October. So you have almost around a month and about a week more. So about 5 weeks is what they've given you extra. So that is the extended timeline for this year. So if you want, you can just take about a minute or so to go through this, or maybe the interested students can just take a screenshot of this. So you know which month what are you supposed to do. So like June 8th on Monday, that's when the ERAS season for 21 will begin, and applicants can register for the My ERAS and start working on the token system. And September to October, these 2 months, they can, send across their applications. And then December and Jan, the regular, the routine would be back into system.
Right. Okay, thank you, sir. Our next question is, how do you submit your transcripts? And how important are your internal scores in deciding whether or not you get a match as an IMG?
How do you, just repeat the question, how do you submit your transcripts?
How do you submit your transcripts? And how important are your internal scores in deciding whether or not you get a match as an IMG?
Right. So the first part of your question, we've just discussed a couple of slides earlier. How do you submit your transcripts? So medical transcripts, you're supposed to upload that on the ERAS portal, and through the portal itself, you are supposed to send it across to various terminals or various universities or program directors, as the case may be. Coming to the second part of the question, how important are the internals? Well, I would not like to give you a very straight pinpoint answer as to yes, they are important or they are not important. But if I have to share with you the trend, until now, the internal scores were not really important, right? They didn't really play a very vital role as such. But yeah, they were like, okay, fine, you've cleared everything, that's fine. But my main focus is USMLE scores. So you've got a 250 on your step 1, great. You've got a 260 on your step 2 CK, splendid, outstanding. So that was the turning point of the application. Rest, no matter you're a 50% or a 70% in your academics, that's like fine for me. But now, slowly and steadily, in the last couple of years, I have noticed program directors changing their mind, and they're phasing out or fading out from that particular mindset, and slowly and steadily, they are getting inclined towards your academic scores as well, right? But again, that's not going to be the important most criteria, but yes, that will certainly be one of the considerations of the program directors, is what I can say. And especially after the 2022 change, whether step 1 becomes a pass and fail, the only parameter that I have to judge a particular student is going to be your step to CK scores. Rest is your CV. So I need something more. So that's when I can vouch on your academic scores. But again, I'm using the word can. It's not a mandate. I'm not saying like, don't focus on your academics. You can or you should. It's always good, but slowly, the trend is changing is what I can say. And it's always better. It's always good to be prepared rather than like, crying at the last minute. Oh shit,
Right.
I should have studied better during my MBBS.
Okay, so moving on to our next question is, do you submit certificates to verify your CV? If so, where and in what form? Scanned or a hard copy do we submit said certificate?
No, you don't submit any certificates. You don't have to verify them because you don't have to do that. It's like taking that, okay, fine, since you're doing it, you know the legal consequences and you will not fool around or you would not fudge around. So obviously you're going to write only those things in your CV which you have already done in life. However, let's say fast forward, you are lucky enough to get shortlisted and you receive a call for interview, and then you go to the US, right? When you go to the US, you are sitting in front of the program director. Now that you know that you don't have to submit the certificates to validate whether you've done it or not, but you cannot take the program directors for granted. He may start shooting questions left, right, center. Okay, fine. So you say that you've done a research on this. Tell me, what was it? Tell me what were the sources. Tell me this. Tell me that. Oh, so you're saying that, okay, fine. You've participated in poster presentation and you won first prize. Okay, fine. Tell me about this. What was the topic? Okay, fine. So that was colitis cystitis. Okay, fine. Then he'll start asking you questions. And then if you're not prepared, you don't know where the questions are going to come from, right? So if someone has that in mind, if one of my viewers has that in mind that, okay, fine, if they're not asking for certificates, I can write a huge list. No, you cannot do that because you will be caught at some point in time. The very micro level system, so you cannot fudge around. So even if you've done 4 things in life, fine. Just mention those 4 things. You need not add any supporting documents to it. And if at all, I would always recommend that when you go to the US for the interview, you will have a file or a folder with you. Keep those certificates handy there. If required, you can always just unzip your folder and say, so I won first prize in this, so and this is it. So this is the certificate for that. So you can always verify for yourself, but you don't have to upload at the beginning of the application.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir, for answering the question and for your advice. We'll move on to our next question, which is, once you are done sending the application, what are the factors which are used to evaluate the students? That is, how do programs choose their applicants?
Well, so are you asking me after the interviews or before the interviews?
Well, let's start with before the interviews, because our next questions are actually on the interviews. So we'll address that then.
Okay. So what happens is, so as I said, like until the 15th of September, you have sent across your applications, and the program directors then receive bunch of applications. On the electronic portal, he will simply, put an electronic filter asking the computer to eliminate the students who are having less than a particular set of scores. So let's say 240 is my criteria. I will say, okay, fine, less than 240, please flush them out. Less than 215, step 2 CK, please flush them out. And then that's how I will eliminate the students, and then I will have cream core students who really meet the criteria. Then I'll start looking into every single page in depth. CV in depth. I will look into their transcripts. I will look into other things, and then I will come to a particular conclusion whether this particular profile impresses me or not. Okay. So the first thing that I have here is the USMLE scores. Because as I said, I've got bunch of, and that bunch can be in thousands as well. I have a single digit or a double digit vacancy with me, and I've got thousands of applications. So which is why in the eras I will put a electronic filter saying, okay, fine, less than this score, kindly just eliminate those students. So that kind of thing. Is someone playing around with my screen?
Yeah, it looks like it. Sir, actually only you can turn off the setting that other people can scribble on the screen.
Okay. Sir, you can just go to the options and you can turn off the annotations. Only the one sharing the screen can.
I don't know, because that's really disturbing a lot.
Or what you can do is that you can reshare your screen. Guys, I really ask you to be a sport so that we don't waste any more time. So could you please not scribble on the screen? It's not funny.
Disable participant. Okay, fine. So that's how it is. So the first is USMLE. So now that I've got the good cream of cream students, the next is the application package. I will start looking into the US clinical experience. If you have any, where have you done, what was your role, how does the letter of recommendation really define you as a person, etc., the medical school grades, achievements, etc. All of these things, like, as you as a personality through these paperwork is what I would look into. Next is the interviews. So whatever candidates that have liked through the application package, I will call them down for face-to-face interviews to the US, and then I will interview them. I will literally grill them to know and understand, because at the end of the day, I'm going to pay them almost about $55,000-$60,000 annually. And I don't want to repent later that, oh, I have not taken the right person. I wish I would have taken the other candidate, which is why they will want to grill you properly to ensure that, yes, you're the best candidate. And when you come, you don't just join the crowd and be a part of the crowd, but you actually make a difference to the hospital, to the society, to the patients, etc. So that kind of, or that quality of doctors is what these guys are looking out for. And finally, you will be ranking the universities at the end of the day, right? So University A is my first choice, University B is my second choice, University C is my third choice, and University D is my fourth choice, right?
Right.
Similarly, the universities will also rank you as candidates, that you're my first best candidate, you're my second best candidate, third best candidate. So I will be ranking the candidates as program directors. And then finally, the match happens based on the rankings. And that's when, the universities get the right doctors out there.
Right. Okay, sir, thank you so much for sharing this information with us.
Right.
Let's move on to the next question, which is, when do you typically expect interviews, and what are the typical questions which are asked in an interview?
Well, interviews you can expect anywhere between, say, October to December. That's the ideal time. But November, December is more idealistic, is what I will say. That's when you should be expecting the interview calls or the actual scheduled interviews. Right? In case if you've received one call in the month of October, one call in the month of November, and one call in the month of December, and one call in the month of January, you're not expected to go to the US 4 times. So before you leave your country, you can simply shoot an email to the respective program director stating, hey, I'm going to be in the US, let's say, for example, from the 1st of December to the 10th of December, I would request you to kindly reschedule it in one of these 10 days. So all the 4 interviews that you have can be rescheduled accordingly. And that's how you finish everything at one go and then come back to your country. Right? As coming to the second part of your question, which is what are the typical interview questions? It's a very, very, very exhaustive, question that you've asked me. So it's a very huge list that I have. So for example, we have many good applicants. Why should we choose you? So this is a typical HR question that these guys would ask you. So you can, you have enough time, you can prepare yourself. But just don't give some, ugly answers like, sir, I feel I'm good and I deserve this seat. So that's why, you should be considering me. So these kind of lame answers will simply throw you out of the room. Next is, why do you choose to apply to this program? So why this program? So if you're looking out for UCLA, why UCLA? If you're looking out for John Hopkins, why John Hopkins? So you should have a proper
Mm-hmm.
answer to what you're saying. So yours is a brand, and like, since my childhood, I've been hearing about UCLA, so this is why I want to apply. So these are very lame answers. So you got to frame those properly. Or what do you like to know about our program? So here it is expected that you ask them questions, show that you have interest in their program, show that you are really inquisitive to know more about things, which means you are a serious candidate and you want to apply to their program. Otherwise, simply say, I don't think I have any questions at this moment, which means, okay, fine, you're just here because I have called you and you're not interested in applying to my program. That would be a turn off for the program director.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about yourself from the previous job? So whatever experience regarding your specialty, you can always describe in about 3 or 4 sentences, or if you have some more, that's absolutely fine. How do I know, you know how do I know you can show initiative and are willing to work? Now, when you're going to work there during your residency, you will obviously have some fellow colleagues. So this question is trying to reflect the team bonding factor about you. So accordingly, you will have to show that bonding towards your fellow mates and your colleagues. So what you answer, you have to be very sure about it. What your interest outside of medicine? So maybe you can talk about some sport or any other hobby of your choice. So this is what it deals with. uh, what would you say about your major strengths and your weaknesses? So you've got ample time. Prepare your strengths and your weaknesses accordingly. You cannot say I do not have a weakness, everyone has one. But just do not give so obvious weaknesses that they pick on you all the time, right? So that's not a good sign. Or why did you choose this specialty? Now I chose pediatrics because then you cannot just say a one liner because I love small babies or something. That, I mean, those kind of things would not be a right way. But if you have a preceding incident, that while I was in my second year and I was into my hospital postings, I went to the ward one day and I found so and so case, and then there was a small kid who was suffering from so and so, and that's how you create a story and then reach to a conclusion. And that day I decided I want to be a pediatrician, and which is why I'm here today. So how you answer these questions is equally important for you, because not everyone reaches the interview stage, and now that you've reached, do not mess around with that opportunity.
Right.
Right? Tell me about your medical education. So you can always describe about your 5.5 years of medical education. Tell me about your previous clinical experience. So if you have any experience outside of your college, maybe you can just talk about it. Specialty wise, why are you so sure that this is the right specialty for you? Maybe pediatrics or medicine or whatever it is. Now just imagine if
Right.
it's surgery, the amount of pressure that the student would have to answer this question, right?
Right.
So just be prepared well in advance so as to ensure that you do not face some kind of trouble at the last minute. Tell me about your
Mm-hmm.
experience with USMLE exam, if you have average scores or you failed. So if you failed or you've got less scores, they are interested to know what went wrong that you've got a very low score or you failed. So accordingly, you will have to tell. But if you tell them, I was busy with my MBBS exam, so I could not cope up with this, finish. Which means you are inviting them to
Right.
eliminate you, because then you're
Right.
giving them a message that, boss, I'm not capable of handling two things simultaneously. You are not capable of handling the pressure. So
Right.
that would be a complete no. Do not answer questions like these. Then they might ask you some core questions like, have you ever worked in an ICU? Maybe you can describe your experiences. Do not fake things if you've not done. If you've not done, say, unfortunately, I could not get an opportunity to do so. That's fine to admit, rather than faking things. They'll catch you like this. Right? Have you ever worked in an
Right.
American hospital? Tell me about the experience of whatever USC that you've done in the US. You can always describe that experience. How do you get along with the nurses? Right? So you will have to frame, do not give naughty answers like, right? All right. How have you ever taught medical students? If you've done so, that's fine. If not, you can always move on. Do you have any publications? Again, the same. If you have, you can describe that. Are you interested in research activity? Please elaborate. So you can always talk about the research activity, the one that you're doing or the one you're interested in doing. We can always, discuss that during the interviews. Have you ever made any presentation before a professional group? Now, the key word here is a professional group. So if you've done a class presentation in your second year in front of your class, don't talk about it, right?
Okay.
If you've
Yeah.
attended any UG conferences or something and you've done something, then yes, that's certainly, this is the place that you should be boasting about things because you've done that. Have you assisted in surgery, and on what procedures? Tell me, how were you involved? So at some point during your, if nowhere, at least during your internship, you would be having at least about 15 days or 1 month of surgery posting. So maybe you can, extract some incidents from that as well. So that can add to your talking content that you would be sharing with your program director. What are your long-term goals? Tell me about yourself. So again, we are back to the HR, typical HR questions. Where do you see yourself in 10 years time? Don't don't say that I want to be a program director. After 10 years, I'll be a program director. So that can be offensive. So be sure of, how you're framing things in such a manner that he's not even offended, but things are getting done and you've passed on the message to him as well. What are you looking for in a training program? So that's again a talking point for you. I'm looking out for something, and then just come out with all the expectations. I'm looking at for state of art facilities. I'm looking at for patients. I'm looking at for better technology, better this, that. Uh, so all of those things, right? Um, do you have any questions about our program? So again, you can again ask them questions. What books have you read lately? Tell me about it. So if you're a ardent book reader, you can talk about it. If not, maybe you can just be clear and vocal about things rather than, yeah, I read newspapers, I read articles, but not really. So just stick to the point is what I'm trying to say. Do you plan to practice in the program? So let's say you're going to New York. Do you plan to practice in New York? Yes. Now you can talk about it. Yes, I definitely do have plans to practice there, state, and all of those things. And I also just don't say yes or no, but rather say why. Just add a couple of sentences to it, which really gives a better cementing to your entire statement. Tell me about the latest treatment. So they might just give you any particular disease and they might ask you about, okay, fine, how do you treat this particular patient? So that's fine. I'm sure you'll be able to answer that question. How would you describe your decision-making style? Now, again, very important question. How would you describe your decision-making style? Because the answer to this question is actually going to leave an impression about you as a personality. Because if there's an emergency at 2 o'clock in the night, and if you were to make a decision, how would that be? Would that be safe to give you the authority to make decisions, or you're still a dependable person? So this is a make or break question. That's what I feel, right? Describe the most difficult question you have ever had to make. So decisions, that's fine. So you can just, if you have any, you can always talk about it. Describe the worst or the most disappointing clinical experience you've had so far. Everyone would have something or the other. So there's no harm in talking about it. Don't just hide things. That's absolutely fine. Be vocal, be free, and be clear about what you're talking. To other programs or specialties have you applied? Now, I leave this questions answer up to you, whether you want to be open about it or you want to hide things. That's completely up to you, because the program director sitting there in front of you would have no idea where all have you applied. He would not have any idea about it. So if you feel that, yeah, I've applied to XYZ because of ABC reasons, that's fine. If you just want to say, no, sir, I've applied to this only, or whatever, which is why I said I just leave that up to you. Describe a difficult time in your life and how you've dealt with it. So again, a decision-making sequence question is what has been repeated over here in a different angle altogether. Do you have any beliefs or convictions that might interfere with your willingness to deal with the kind of clinical situations that you are likely to be presented with the residency training? Usually asked if the program director fears that your religious beliefs may prevent applicant from performing abortions, birth control, etc. Right? Now, again, this is like more of a religious oriented question, I don't want to talk about it or answer about it. I give space to every candidate to prepare their own answers. What do you do to cope up with stress? So again, they're indicating that there are going to be situations where it is going to be a stressful situation. How would you be coping up with that? Because if you are not capable of doing that, you may give up residence in the next 6 months. Where do I replace a candidate after 6 months? Right? So this is what they're trying to understand from this question. So you have to be smart enough to answer this. I'm not sitting here to give you answers to this. And guys, please don't get confused. These are not the only questions which they ask. These are few of the questions which are asked, which I've pulled out for your better understanding, to know that how and where will the questions be popping in from, right?
Right.
Have you taken any CME courses? So that is the continuing medical education courses. That's a concept in the US. If not, why not? This is asked to measure the applicant's initiative to seeking exposure to the US style of healthcare and delivery. So what US doctors do is they are continuously doing some kind of medical education officially in some hospital or in an educational institution to keep themselves updated and abreast. Not like us, like, the 1986 passed out doctor is still practicing without any updations. But in the US, that doesn't happen. So they keep on updating themselves. So that is a part of US style. Are you adapted to it is what they're trying to understand.
Right.
Have you held any leadership roles? Please elaborate. Again, when you're in the second year of residency, you will have 4, 5, 10 juniors below you who are going to report into you. So again, the leadership roles, leadership skills, team leader skills, all of these are evaluated through this particular question. So you obviously have to show that yes, you are a best team leader and you're a people's person, you are people savvy. All these things you will have to convince the program director through this answer. What factors would lead you to rank a program very highly and rank a program at the lowest bottom? So what is the factor? If you are given a choice, what is the best factor and what's the lowest factor? So you will have to tell them accordingly. Could be anything. So we can always have a separate session to frame answers for this, but this right now it's only for your understanding. What kind of personality traits do you find most difficult to deal with your co-workers? This is again a challenging question. If your colleague or your junior is throwing attitude at you, how are you going to deal with that? Right? So this is again more of a team building kind of a question, or leadership question is what I would say. What challenges do you foresee that will potentially affect this specialty in the next 10 years? So again, potentially affecting the specialty. Now, again, they are asking it in a negative manner. They're not asking, how would you see a growth in this specialty after 10 years? They're saying, how would it dip? So now you are expected to talk negative about your specialty. And the moment you talk, they're going to ask, then why are you applying? So there is going to be a connecting question to it. So we have to be prepared for all these angles of questions where they will be thrown from, right? And lastly, what kind of patient do you find it most difficult to relate to? What tactics would you use to establish optimal rapport with such patient? Obviously, every doctor would face these kind of patients in their lifetime. And yes, so you will again have to, formulate an answer in such a fashion and be ready with the answer that, okay, fine, I will just crack a joke and I'll be pally with him or something like that. I mean, that's just a vague answer though, not an applicable one, but I'm just giving you some options. So you can just formulate your answers and don't take time. Don't take more than 3 seconds to think for an answer. Otherwise, the program director gets to know that, okay, fine, he or she is not well prepared for the interview. So we don't want to give that kind of an impression as well, right? So these were a few set of questions which I had and which I thought I should be sharing. So at least you understand that over and the academic questions, over and above the HR type questions, where all the questions can come and how should you be prepared for these set of questions.
Okay, right. That makes sense. Thank you, sir, for sharing this with us. Shall we move on to the next question?
Yes, please.
Okay. The next question is, after the interview, what is the process of announcing the results?
So you mean to say the matching process?
Mm-hmm.
After the
Yes.
interviews, how do they announce the results, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So typically today I want to share the the process or the computerized algorithms of how the system works. So as I told you before in the couple of slides back, the decision-making sequence is interviews and then rankings that you decide. So I gave you an example.
Mm-hmm.
You rank University A the first choice, University B the second choice, University C the third choice, so on and so forth. And these guys will also rank you as, choice of candidate number one, choice of candidate number two, and they will rank you. And then they will submit the data. The program directors will submit this data to a third-party body called as the NRMP. And the candidates will also be submitting their list of universities to the same third-party body called as the NRMP, who will do the matching process. Now,
right.
I have a small algorithm over here which I would want to share with you, so it gives you a better understanding of how exactly this works, right? But before I could do that, Malika, can you just help me clear the screen?
Yes, sir. You can either remove it, or the easiest method is you can reshare your screen. So this thing can be undone. You can reshare your screen again. Maybe that's the easiest option. Otherwise, you have the option to delete this as well.
Okay, because that would come in between.
Yes, yes. Now it's clear, right?
Now it's clear?
Now it's gone, yeah. Now it's clear.
Okay, no one can annotate it. Okay, fine. Now, viewers, friends, the next piece of information which I'm going to share with you is very important, or rather I would say is very critical, kind of tough to understand, because this is a computerized algorithm process that I am just sharing. If you understand this, you're going to be in a great position. But even if you do not understand, it could leave you confusing. No problem. You can come back to either LogicVest YouTube channel, or you can come back to AMSA YouTube channel, and you can watch this particular patch again to understand how did this work. Because this is not easy. Even it took years for me to understand how this algorithm works. But right now, I will just go ahead and explain how the backend computerized algorithm works in the matching process, which is done or hosted by the NRMP, which is the National Residency Matching Program. On the left of your screen, you can see which is programs A, B, C, D. So there are 4 universities, A, B, C, D. Below which there are the number of positions which are vacant, or these guys are open to offer. So program number A, or university or hospital number A, has 3 positions to offer. University B has 2 positions to offer. University C has 2 positions to offer. And University D has only 1 position to offer. All right. Now, fast forward, interviews are done. What these programs on the left side of the screen, what they have done is they have ranked the universities, they have ranked the students or the candidates or the doctors based on the performance so far, including the interviews. So program number A, the first rank, the best candidate that they have found at rank number 1 is the candidate number 6. Rank number 2, or the second best choice that they had was candidate number 10. At the third position, they had candidate number 4. At fourth position, they had candidate number 3, so on and so forth. I believe you are understanding what I'm trying to say. And on behalf of the students, if you can just give me a verbal nod, yes, yes, no, no, please stop, please explain, please repeat, I will do that for you, okay? Similarly, for B, C, and D universities, this is how they have ranked on the left side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen, if you see program of choice, where the candidates have ranked the universities. So, for example, candidate 1, his first choice was University C. His second choice is University A. his third choice was University D, and fourth choice was University B. Clear so far? And similarly, all these 10 candidates have ranked the universities accordingly. Now, you might also see candidate number 5, there are only 3, and candidate number 6, there are only 2, and candidate number 9, there are also 3. The reason is because candidate number 5 has ended up appearing only for 3 interviews, which is why he's ranked 3. Candidate number 6 has got only 2 interview calls, so he's ranked only 2. And candidate number 9 has also got only 3 calls, so which is why he has ranked those 3 universities depending on his choice. And others have got 4, so they have done accordingly. You may have 5, 6, 10, 12 also, but right now I've just restricted my example to 4. Now let's begin how the algorithm works and how the matching actually happens between the candidate and the university. All right. So on the right hand side, let's go by the candidate. So candidate number 1 says, my first choice is C. Okay. Candidate number 1 says, my first choice is C. Now we have to go back to the program list of C to check whether candidate 1 is there on their list. Can you see here? Candidate number 1 is there on C's list, which means candidate number 1 on the right hand side has got matched to program C or University C. Fair enough? Great. Let's move. Now, candidate number 2, he says, my first choice is A. Now on A's list, do we find candidate number 2? Yes, at the last position, which is the 10th rank. Right? Now we will see, does he match? Yes, he does. Great. Let's move on. Candidate number 3. Candidate number 3, first choice is C. So on the C's list, do we find 3? Yes, we do over here. And which is why candidate 3 also gets matched to the program C. Now, candidate number 4, I'm going to run through all 10 because there are some areas where you need to understand what goes wrong. Candidate number 4 says, my first choice is B. On B's list, do we find candidate 4? Yes, at number 2 position. So, fine. I have marked him over here, and I will also rank candidate number 4 against B because these green circles are the ones that they have got matched so far. At number 5, candidate number 5, he says, my first choice is D. On D's list, do we find 5? No, we don't.
No.
Right? So in this case, candidate number 5 will not match against D. It will not match against D. So what happens? Has he lost the game? No, he has not. Now we will move to the next choice. His second best choice is program C. Now we have to see on C's list, do we have candidate 5? No, we do not have candidate 5 there as well. So he is unlucky here. Now what happens? We move to the next choice that he has, which is A. That is his last choice. On A's list, do we find candidate number 5? And yes, at rank number 9, I find candidate number 9. So he got lucky at the last minute, at the last choice. At least he got a particular a match. Fine. Now when we move to the next candidate, which is candidate number 6, he has got 2 interviews. His first choice was A, second choice was C. Candidate number 6, his first choice is A. Do we find 6 on A's list? Yes, at number 1 position, we find A. We find number 6. So this means that candidate number 6 has got matched at program number A. Now, when we move further to candidate 7, candidate 7, his first choice is C. Do we have 7 on C's list?
Yes.
We do. Okay. Okay, fine. So we have 7 over there. So this person gets what? Matched in the program C. However, point to be noted here is the total number of vacancies that C has to offer is only 2, whereas we found
Right.
3 candidates. So what happens in this case? Automatically, candidate number 3 will be kicked out because there were 2 positions and he's at the lowest bottom. So he will be kicked out of the program and the top 2 would prevail. Okay, so he lost this chance. Now we will have to go back to candidate number 3 to rectify and give him the next choice. So we go back to candidate 3 and his next choice was B. Now on B's list, do we find candidate number 3? Yes, it is at the last position. Okay, so what we do is we will simply at this moment we will say that he got matched at program B. Candidate number 3 got matched at program B. So far everyone is in a good shape. Now let's move on to candidate number 8. Candidate 8, his first choice is D. Okay, this could be confusing, guys, but try and understand. Candidate 8, his first choice was D. Now, if it is D, on D's list, do I find 8? Yes, he is at the last position, rank number 7. So, fair enough. Candidate number 8 got lucky to get a match at program D. Moving on to candidate 9. Candidate 9 says A. His first choice is A. But do we have 9 on A's list? Yes. The third last is candidate number 9. Now, again, we will have to keep on checking how many positions they have to offer. 3, whereas we have 4 positions. So the question to all the students on behalf of Anne, can you answer this question? Who will be kicked out because there are 3 positions and 4 candidates we've got so far? Who will be kicked out?
2.
Absolutely right. The last person will be kicked out because the vacancy is full by the people who are above number 2. So he is unfortunately out. And now we will have to go back to 2 to assign him the next particular program. So we go back to candidate number 2. His next choice after A was D. So on D's list, do we find candidate number 2? No, we don't. His next choice was B. On B's list, do we find candidate number 2? No, we don't find him there as well. His last choice is B. His last choice was C. On C's list, can we find candidate number 2? Yes, we do. But can he get matched here?
No.
Because we already have 2 positions and both are filled by candidate number 1 and 7. So 2 is also out of the league. So in this particular scenario, candidate number 2 was unlucky to get anywhere. Maybe because he didn't rank them well, or probably his total number of interviews were less. So there could be a lot of factors. So this is how, if you're unlucky in ranking, you could go for a toss. Now moving on, the next is candidate number 10. Candidate number 10, his first choice was B, and on B's list I do not find 10, which is why B is ruled out. Next is the next choice. I will have to obviously shift to his next choice. His next choice was D, and on D's list, do I find candidate number 10? Yes, I do. However, there's only 1 position which is available. So automatically candidate number 8 will be kicked out.
Right.
Okay. Now again, I will have to go to the 8's list. Now his next choice was A. On A's list, do I find 8? Yes, I do, at rank number 6. But in this case, 5 will be kicked out because he's at the bottom.
Right.
Okay, so that was 8. I will simply have to kick out 5. And now again, I will have to go to 5's list and remove him from A. However, he has exhausted the list. On the right hand side, if you see, candidate number 5 has exhausted the list, and he equally is out along with the candidate number 2. So this is how the algorithm would work at the back end, and this is how they would, rank or match the students against the particular university. So this is the back end uh, algorithm which is used through a software. I just tried to decode the software and put it in a tabular format for you to understand. I am pretty sure there could still be some students who may have not understood, as I said, but please excuse me, please forgive me. I have nothing to do with this, because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to simplify this to make you understand. Again, if you've not understood, come back to our YouTube channels and watch this set of clip again if you want to refer to this particular question for a better understanding. Thank you so much, and back to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, I know that the matching process and the algorithm is really complicated, so thank you for taking the time to simplify it for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, when are the results declared?
Results are typically declared on the third Friday of March. So that's September that you apply. The time between October, November, December is typically the time for interviews. Around 21st of February of the next year is when you're expected to submit your rank order list that you can see on the screen. These rankings, you are supposed to submit it to the National Residency Matching Program, and then they will take the inputs from both the parties, that's the program directors as well as the candidates. They will feed that data into the computer, and the computer, using this format or formula, will try and match the students accordingly. As we can see on the right side of the screen, this is how the rankings are decided, and the students get residency of their choice, and the results are out typically on the third Friday of March of the next year.
Right. Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is, I think a question on everyone's mind is, what happens to those students who don't secure a spot?
Great. So as we have just seen in the current slide, if you can see, candidate number 2 and candidate number 5 were unlucky to get a spot. But does that mean that they come back home empty-handed, completely disappointed? The answer is no. There is still an option for these candidates like number 2 and number 5 to get a second chance in the same season. So I'll give an example. This is a very hypothetical example. Let's say, for example, in this particular season, we had 1,500 candidates who had applied for residency against a total of 1,000 seats which were offered by these US universities and hospitals. Okay, assuming 800 got through and 200 students were unlucky, like the candidate number 2 and candidate number 5 who could not get a spot.
Right.
Now, when these program directors are taking through the entire process, they will not give away they will not give you away a particular seat just because I've got 2-3 seats vacant, so chalo, take it. That's not going to happen. They may let it go vacant, but not give it to you at that moment because they did not find you suitable candidate. Okay, so like this, let's assume there are 200 seats which are still vacant because the program director did not get the right candidate. Okay, did not get the right did not find the right candidate, and there are still 700 students like the candidate number 2 and the candidate number 5 who could not secure a spot. So only for these 700 candidates against these 200 seats, they will again do the match process. And this particular program, after the results are declared, that is called as the SOAP program, which is also known as the Supplementary Offer and the Acceptance Program. So this is a mini version of the real NRMP match. They will rerun the show for these unmatched candidates and the vacant seats. So you never know, if you're lucky this time, you may simply get a spot somewhere else. So there's no need to get disheartened. You always have another chance.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think that answers the question really well. So the next question is, sir, could you please elaborate on the typical visas to go to the US for a PG?
You were not audible. Can you repeat that?
Yes, sir. The question is, Could you please elaborate on the process of getting a typical visas to go to the US for your PT?
Well, again, when you go to the US, you typically go on two types of visas as we discussed last time. One is the H visa, one is the J visa. So J visa is the visa where if you take the step 1, step 2 CK and the step 2 CS and basis these 3 examinations, if you're applying, you have no choice then to go to the US only on a J1 visa, which is again a student visa. So in that scenario, what happens is today, let's assume that your residency is over. Tomorrow, you will have to come back to your home country at least for a minimum of 2 years, whether you like it or not. Okay, so that is a typical J1 visa for you. And if you think that, no, I don't want to come back to my country, I want to settle down there, then you better spend some 6 months more, take the step 3 examination first, and then you go to the US. When you apply, this time, along with the same student who's applying on a J1, you are equally applying, you are eligible to apply directly on a H1B work permit visa. So because you have a work permit visa today, even if your residency is over, you still have a valid H1, you can always switch or change your employer and you can continue on with a new job in the US and you need not come back. So that's the typical difference between the J1 visa and the H1 visa.
Okay, I see. Okay. Well, sir, that was the last question. So I guess that's it for today's webinar. Sir, do you have a closing statement or anything else you'd like to share with us before you finish up?
Well, at this stage, all I can tell you is just one thing. If you're planning for getting into the US, start early. So if you start early, you have ample time to plan your studies, to plan the entire timeline, study line, study time frame, everything. And then if you being lucky, you always have an option or a chance to appear for the step 3 examination and then go on an H1. That would be more secured an option as compared to the J1. Because if you're going on a J1 and if you have to come back, then after 2 years of gap, getting back into the US is going to be a troublesome area. Now, for those who do not know, there is something which is called as a J1 waivership program. Okay, what is a J1 waivership program? Instead of coming back to India, you stay back in the US, but you will have to work for the underprivileged rural areas of the US. Okay. If you work there for 2 years, you need not come back. And then the requirement of J1 is fulfilled. But the question here is, would you get an opportunity for a J1 waivership program? Would you get a vacancy? That's completely subject to vacancy. We do not know.
Right.
And if you're unlucky one, you may have to come back to India, right? So the entire USMLE and residency approach is quite calculated. It's quite calculated. It's not like, unfortunately, many a times I see students go with the heat of the moment. Don't do that. You need to have a pre-planning that, yes, I have to go to the US to year 2023, for example, 2023, I have to go, for which I have to start my USMLE preparation in 2020, 2022, I will be giving my CK, CS, followed by step 3, 23, I'm going to apply, 24, I'm going to resume. So when you have these calculations and milestones in mind, I guess it then becomes easy for you to achieve your goals. And overall, whatever is happening in the US, I would like to assure and reassure that the COVID pandemic is just a temporary blockage, mentally as well as physically, travel restrictions, whatever you call it as. US definitely has wider scope, way better than India. Not that I'm anti-national that I'm talking about, but yes, when it is a fact, it is a fact. There are a lot of opportunities in the US. If you refer to my previous webinars, you will see I have also shared the percentage of students or IMGs in the US. I've also shared what is the requirement of the physicians, doctors, surgeons in the US. So if you consider that, you've got a very great and a wider scope in the US as compared to India or any other country for the choice. So be well prepared, go for it, and prepare well for it. I would say this is the right time for you. And if you have any questions or doubts, we're always, a phone call away. On your screen, you can see this is our social media. You can always follow us on one of these or all of these to have timely updates. Whatever that we have, we always share with all our students, irrespective you're a Kaplan student or not. We love sharing, and that's what we do. That's what we're famous for. That's what we're good at, right? So that is what I would suggest to all my students. And if you have any questions, you can always write to us, or you can call us, you can WhatsApp me. That's absolutely fine. The details are there right on your screen. I guess because of the time limitations, we may wrap up the session soon, but I'm just leaving back my contact details. This is it on your screen. Please capture that and keep it handy in your smartphone. We can always be great help to each other. And
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the whole team of AMSA, as well as all the participants with us here today, thank you once again, Mr. Abhishek, for taking the time to guide our lovely viewers. It indeed was an enlightening session, and I personally learned a lot today. And now, to all our loyal viewers, thank you for staying with us. We hope this session helped you solve your queries. We were able to ask only these many questions because of the time constraint. We have one more announcement. Due to popular demand from all of you, Kaplan LogQuest has given us a golden opportunity to brush up on our USMLE prep. You can experience a USMLE Step 1 mock test via Kaplan LogQuest USMLE mock test series. The link to join will be circulated in all the AMSA USMLE WhatsApp groups for all of you to join. We will also be sending a post-event form to all of you, which will have the contact info of Mr. Abhishek. You can email him directly about any more doubts that you have. Apart from that, you can always contact us directly at amsaindiaexternal@gmail.com. I would also like to recommend to you all that you join us for the last episode of this webinar series, where we will discuss exam patterns of the USMLE based on statistics from previous papers. This will be happening on June 8th. Stay tuned and see you all again soon. Goodbye, everyone. I hope you're all staying safe. Wash your hands, clean your phone, and maintain social distance. Goodbye.